All right. So, can you guys hear me? Yes or no? Can you guys hear me? Yes or no? Can you guys hear me? I guess not. All right. So, I typically do topics like this live. I'm going to do one of these topics, and I think it's time to realize that in America, there is no longer a left and there is no longer a right. Now, what does that mean? There is no longer a left or there no longer is a right. I used to have a large distaste for Christians. Now, I do believe I was correct back then, but if you were a Christian and you voted for the other side and you did not vote for Trump, uh, I had disdain for you. I disdained you as a human being. Let's just put it that way. I rocked hard for Trump, only for Trump to make me look stupid. Trump has made me look stupid. God bless you, brother Alton. Try to pop in a little bit later. How has Trump made me look stupid? Because something's not adding up around here. Now we're gonna play a couple of videos. We're gonna Chris LaSala did an interesting video breaking down Jewish history in America, and I don't want to be that guy to attack Jews or anything like that. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon, but something ain't right around here. The Epstein files haven't been released. Where the hell are they? The JFK files were released, right? Released. We don't know how much they hid back. And then the Martin Luther King audio files, we haven't got them. And Donald Trump said he was going to release the 9/11 files, and that hasn't been released. And I wonder why those files haven't been released. Who's been behind that? Why? Why haven't the files been released? And why is it that Christians are pushing all this Zionism? These are all questions I have. But I saw this video by Chris LaSala, and we're going to address David Wood as well. I saw this video from Chris LaSala that he posted up, and I don't agree with him. Well, actually, I agree with him a lot regarding the Trinity and stuff like that. So each time I talk to him, I disagree with him a little less. Some people are saying that my audio is cutting up. People are saying my audio is cutting up. Okay, some people are saying that my audio is cutting up. We'll fix that. All right. All right. All right. I shouldn't be sounding like I'm cutting up. The audio shouldn't be sounding like I'm cutting up now. The audio should be good. Please let me know if the audio is good. Now, I say all that to say, now, please drop a one if the audio is good. Donald Trump made a fool out of me, bro. I voted for that freaking man, and he made a clown out of me. Groceries extremely high. I mean, Biden should have just ran for another term. What has Donald Trump done? Not a dang thing. Some people are saying the audio was better before. What the heck is going on here? I am really confused. Some people are saying the audio was better before. But if you guys are saying there are no issues with the audio, then so be it. Now, Nick Fuentes Fuentes made a big mistake, because I'd hate to tell you, it seems like Israel And the Jews have had their hands in America since the very beginning. So for Nick Fuentes to believe that he wants America to become what it was once before, there's an issue there. Now let's watch this video real quick, and then we're going to play David Wood's video. And I think that Christians, man, when it comes to politics, man, I'm starting to detach myself. I was a Republican man. I was a Republican man till I died. The Republican Party isn't even conservative anymore. These guys aren't even pro-life. So what are we really voting for these guys? I made a fool out of myself. I've made a fool out of myself. So let's watch this video here. And after this video, we're going to watch a video by David Wood. But this is very interesting to me. And we'll react to these videos. We'll react to these videos. Listen, when somebody's right, they're right. I'm going to play this at 1.5 speed. And if anybody wants to join up later, we'll open it up. And then I'm going to play a video by David Wood that he had on Tucker Carlson. So we'll play that after the fact. But let's see how I'm going to do this here. Maybe I could put this here. Oh yeah, I'll just tie this and then I'll move this here. Yeah, I could just do that. Yeah, I'll just do that. All right. So let's rock and roll, and let's watch some of this, and let's keep it pushing.
In your book, and you say that you've said it many times when you were president of the United States, that no president is ever going to do. You make the observation in your book, and you say that you've said it many times when you were president of the United States, that no president is ever going to desert Israel. Right?
Correct. I put it more bluntly. I said, as I told congressional leaders during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, no American president will let Israel go down the tube. Right. Democrat or Republican, it's not an issue.
That is stated fairly categorically, and yet in your book you make it clear at the same time that Israel really is not of any enormous strategic value to the United States anymore.
That's correct. That's correct.
The Founding Fathers would never. What do you think the Founding Fathers would say about you working for Ben Shapiro, huh? What do you think George Washington, the hero, the Titan, what do you think George Washington, or any of them for that matter, would think about you working for Ben Shapiro? What do you think about America going to war for Israel? What do you think they would say about Jews running the Ivy Leagues, Jews running the media?
Yeah, one thing's for sure. I'd hate to break this down to you, but George Washington was not a Christian. That man was a Mason. I don't know where this lie came from, but this man was not a Christian, bro. He was a Mason. And that's not conspiracy. Just do a quick Google search. The man was not a Christian. So this guy's out here trying to suck up to George Washington. George Washington was not a Christian. He did not fear God. George Washington was none of that. So for this guy to push that narrative, it is unfortunate, but in a sense, and I'm going to Google this for you guys. The main reason America even exists is because of Israel. Don't believe me? Well, we'll continue to watch this video. It's pretty crazy. Makes you wonder why America's so loyal to Israel. But from the very beginning, it was Israel that pretty much built America. It was the Jews. If I'm going to be more clear, it was the Jews. To be very, very precise and clear, the Jews. Let's carry on.
Jews running our Congress, bribing our politicians, controlling The National Security Council, the State Department, the Pentagon. The money, the printing of the money. What do you think they would say about that? What do you think they would say about you? Do not even say, founding fathers, you don't have.
This is like a satanic saying that George Washington said right here. I believe this is a pagan deity. George Washington was not a Christian. Now I'm going to try, I do talk a lot, so I'm going to try to get through this. This is a good video. But George Washington was not a Christian. I'm sorry to break it to you, man, but America is, there's a lot of crap going on in America right now. It's sad. Donald Trump has disappointed me, man. Disappointed me. Let's carry on.
Have the right. You have no right. Keep their names out of your mouth, Matt Walsh. That name, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, keep those names out of your mouth as long as you're working for Ben Shapiro, traitor. Keep those names, Matt Walsh. That name, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, keep those names out of your mouth as long as you're working for Ben Shapiro, traitor.
Interesting. Keep your name. Wait, hold on. So this man is out here buck dancing for George Washington, who isn't a Christian. For George Washington, keep the name. When George Washington was in bed with the Jews the same way that everybody who works for Ben Shapiro is. Let's look this up. Let's carry on.
We need to unite against the left. No, pal. We need to unite as Americans for our sovereignty and independence. It ain't a difference of opinion. It's black and white, clear as crystal. That is the predicament that we're in. We are occupied, and it ain't by Muslims. It's by Jews.
Now, this is where this guy's smoking. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can honestly say I want Christianity to be the #1 religion, obviously, right? To say that it's not the Muslims, it's the Jews. Listen, I get it. But we can't, it's not it's the Jews, it's the Muslims, right? It's not it's the Jews, it's the Muslims. Tucker Carlson says the same thing. Slow down, buddy. Slow down. And there's only so much I can say, but just look at the UK. Just look at the UK.
Obviously.
Does America owe its very existence to a little talked about Jewish immigrant? Jewish contributions to this country are often overlooked, erased, or deliberately ignored. But without this one Jewish man, there might not be an America at all. So make sure you share this video far and wide. His name was Chaim Salomon. Born in Poland, a Sephardic Jew who spoke several languages and mastered the world of finance. Chaim immigrated to New York City in the early 1770s. And when the call for revolution rang, he answered it, not with a musket, but with his wallet. Solomon became the financial patron of the American Revolution. When the Continental Congress was bankrupt, when soldiers needed pay, when the army couldn't even feed itself, George Washington turned to his trusted source and uttered the famous line, "Send for Chaim Salomon." Send for Chaim Salomon. It wasn't just an option, it was an of the American Revolution. With a musket, but with his wallet.
There you have it. Chaim Salomon. That's the guy that that George Washington said that famous line. Now, at first I thought it was a pagan deity, but that's who the Freemasons used to call out to. Well, let's carry on.
Solomon became the financial patron of the American Revolution. When the Continental Congress was bankrupt, when soldiers needed pay, when the army couldn't even feed itself, George Washington turned to his trusted source and uttered the famous line, "Send for Chaim Salomon." Send for Chaim Salomon. It wasn't just an option, it was an urgent necessity. Solomon personally loaned money, most of it never repaid, to fund the birth of the American dream. He converted foreign loans, paid soldiers out of his own pocket, and kept the government's lights on. He helped James Madison and Thomas Jefferson stay in Philadelphia to craft the Constitution. He helped James Madison and Thomas Jefferson stay in Philadelphia to craft the Constitution. He helped George Washington win at Yorktown, and his influence is reflected in our right for religious freedom. His influence is reflected in our right for religious freedom. He's been honored on a U.S. postage stamp, and today there's a famous statue in Chicago's Herald Square with these three men, George Washington, Robert Morris, and Jewish immigrant Chaim Solomon, known as the financier of the American Revolution, but we don't hear his name enough. Every American, especially every American Jew, should know his name and his story. So if anyone asks you, what have Jews ever done for America? You can calmly smile and say, Jews? We only financed America's birth, Buttercup.
The Jews? We only financed America's birth, Buttercup.
To distance America from its own founding ideology. What is that founding ideology? Here's a term you may not have heard. Christian Hebraism. Look it up. At the founding of America, it was in many respects a Jewish project. And that's what the bad guys are after. I'm going to talk about this because it's a little bit complicated in three aspects. The exploration of America, the ideology of America, and blood, the actual DNA of some of its founding fathers. So let's go to the exploration of America. How is America a Jewish project? Well, why was it founded? Columbus. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We now know, 2024, through DNA studies, that Columbus was a Jew, a secret Jew. Why would a Jew keep his identity secret? Because in Portugal and Spain of 1492, there was an Inquisition. The Catholic Church was going after the Jews. So many of these Jews led crypto-Jewish or Marrano existences. By daylight, Christians, by nighttime at home, Jews. And what were they doing? When they were found as being Jewish, they were burned at the stake. So Columbus, along with other crypto-Jews, along with other Marranos, said, let's go look for a place where Jews can be free.
Said, let's go look for a place where Jews can be free.
It was an early form of Zionism, the return to a land where Jews can defend themselves. I mean, they weren't looking for a passage to India. That was the cover story. Who was on the boat? They didn't take a single priest. These are supposedly Catholics.
I mean, they weren't looking for a passage to India. That was the cover story. Who was on the boat? They didn't take a single priest. These are supposedly Catholics.
And why did they go? Who would get on that boat? Only people who were persecuted. It was dangerous. They knew most of them would die en route looking for America. And when they got to America, who got off? When they saw indigenous people, who got off first? It was Luis de Torres, a Jew. And what language did he speak? Hebrew. Why? Because they believed, according to Jewish lore, that across a body of water called the Sambation, Jews were not persecuted as they were in Spain and Portugal. Rather, Jews had a country, had a government, had an army, and they could protect themselves.
Jews had a country, had a government, had an army, and they could protect themselves.
They could be free. That's what they were looking for. And in some ways, they succeeded. This Marrano project.
The point is, both for Christ, is that Nick Fuentes was complaining, saying, don't talk about George Washington. Don't talk about George Washington. And the founders of America were pretty much Jews. So he was saying, don't talk about George Washington when the founders of America were pretty much Jews. So that's pretty interesting stuff right there. All right, let me carry on.
This crypto-Jewish, secret Jewish project to find a land where Jews and other people could be free. Succeeded, they found America. At its exploration, America came out of a Hebraic project, desire.
At its exploration, America came out of a Hebraic project, desire.
Some of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence were Hebrew speakers, fluent Hebrew speakers. And some of the early founding fathers called for, way before modern Zionism, called for the return of the Jewish people to ancient Judea to create an Israel. John Adams, second president of the United States, and his son, John Quincy Adams, they literally called for the return of the Jewish people to Judea, to Israel, to what the anti-Israel people now call Palestine, but that's what they were calling for. I mean, ideologically, at its founding, America was speaking Hebrew, saw itself as a Hebrew republic, used Old Testament metaphors and models and wanted to create a place where all religions can live side by side without one religion being dominant and destroying the adherents, the believers of another religion. And this may shock you. When it comes to the blood running through some of the founders' veins, that was Jewish blood too.
This may shock you. When it comes to the blood running through some of the founders' veins, that was Jewish blood too.
What? Yep, Hamilton, for example. I know you've seen the Broadway play.
That name, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, keep those names out of your mouth as long as you're working for Ben Shapiro.
Hamilton was born in the Caribbean of a mother whose name was Levine. She was married to a guy named Levine. He went to Jewish school. That's not argued. The only reason you could enroll in a Jewish school is if you were a Jew. Hamilton always hung out with Jews. Here's the author of the Federalist Papers. Here's one of the founders of the United States who advocated that America should always stand on the side of the oppressed, who partnered with Jews against anti-Semites. Alexander Hamilton, a Jew. America, at its spiritual founding, is in its fabric a Hebraist, Hebrew Zionist project. They call Israel the little Satan, and America the big Satan. When they stomp on Israeli flags and burn Israeli flags, they're also stomping on American flags and burning American flags. These are not political terms, Satan, little Satan, big Satan. These are theological, ideological terms. They see Israel as a Satan, but a little one. The big one, not because it has the bigger army, the bigger Satan, the one that is holding up the whole ideology of the Western world, is the big Satan. It's America.
The big Satan. It's America.
Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan. And this is why for decades, it's led millions in the chants of death to Israel and death to America. Today, Israel is responding to those genocidal calls with action and with a call of our own. Long live Israel and long live America.
So there you have it. Nick Fuentes is attacking the synagogue of Satan all the time and exalting George Washington, but he's not telling you the truth about who George Washington was and who was financing George Washington. And we're going to get into it shortly, how George Washington actually gave the synagogue of Satan most of their rights to run for office, all of their rights to run for office, that is.
When the Continental Congress was bankrupt, when soldiers needed pay, when the army couldn't even feed itself, George Washington turned to his trusted source and uttered the famous line, "Send for Chaim Solomon."
He basically financed George Washington to win the war so he can then put into play legislature so people from the synagogue of Satan can run for office in our country. Now, Ben is going to read to you an excerpt from the back of Columbus, Secret Jew by Mike Evans. It's one of the books we're going to recommend that you read because most of us in this country, I mean, I'm all Italian. I'm 100% Italian. When I was in school growing up, they told me he was Italian. I walked around to my friends when I was 10 years old and I was like, you know, I'm Italian like Columbus. We founded this country. We were the first ones to sail over here. And we were basically lied to as kids. And as we already saw, DNA reports show that he was Jewish himself. And many books and many authors have wrote books to show how he was financed by Jews. And he had the purpose of coming over here with a Jewish goal of finding Solomon's treasure and rebuilding Jerusalem. Now, none of us were taught this in school over here. Were you guys taught this in New Zealand?
Absolutely not. We weren't.
All right, so read this for them because this is a book you guys should check out.
You know what's interesting? I didn't know that. I didn't know. Dolphin. They made the video. I didn't know that Israel had, or I should say Jews had that kind of influence in the creation of America. That I didn't know, which is very interesting. We're talking George Washington from the very first. I mean, I didn't know. All right. So, yeah. Now, Tokenomics is saying that he wasn't a Jew, but we'll look that up later. Anyways, let's carry on. I don't know, Chris. They're saying that this guy wasn't a Jew, Chris.
All right. Christopher Columbus, the admiral, was more than just an explorer. He was a secret Jew, a converso, a man on a mission to find a vast land, a place that would be home to Christianity and a refuge for the Jewish people to escape the horrors of the Spanish Inquisition. His initial voice.
Oh, snap. Somebody said that his DNA did prove he was a Jew. No, he didn't say George Washington was a Jew. But let's keep watching here.
Voyage of discovery was funded not by Queen Isabella's jewels, but by a group of wealthy Jews without whom his journey would not have been possible. Columbus was also in search of a source of gold, King Solomon's mines, the gold of Ophir, in order to recapture the city of Jerusalem from the infidels and fund the restoration of the temple. He traveled with a Hebrew-speaking interpreter in hopes of finding the 10 lost tribes of Israel.
Exactly. No mention of any Christians on the boat other than who he was posing to be, which is basically a fake Christian posing to be a Christian when he's really a crypto Jew. So let's listen to this author. She wrote a book on Columbus.
Hold on. Chris never said George Washington was a Jew. Did I say that? If I said that, I was wrong. I was saying the guy that helped George Washington, like the guy that funded George Washington and all of that. That's what I'm talking about. I was not told that that was the case when I was in school. I did not know that. I did not know that Jews had a hand in the formation of America. I did not know that. I thought it was just full-blown people from that got independent. And so so that I did not know. I didn't know that they had some kind of influence. I didn't know that. But yeah, let's carry on.
Columbus. Let's hear what she has to say.
My book, Columbus and the Quest for Jerusalem, is about the reasons behind his plan to sail west to go to the Orient. And of course, he was going to get gold. Everybody knows about that. He was going to meet the Grand Khan of Cathay to set up a trading post to trade for gold and spices that was going to finance a crusade to take over Jerusalem from the Muslims. And in fact, it wasn't just to mount the crusade to take Jerusalem. That was part of a whole apocalyptic scenario. And it was only the first step, because in order for Christ to come again before the end of the world, Jerusalem had to be in Christian hands. The temple had to be rebuilt, because that's where Christ would sit in judgment. And all peoples had to be proselytized and hopefully converted so they wouldn't burn eternally in hell. That was the whole plan. And Columbus saw himself as being a crucial figure in making this come about. And he even, before the first voyage, had figured out how many years were left before the end of the world.
There we have a second author who wrote an entire book on Christopher Columbus being a secret Jew with Jewish motives when he sailed over to the West, right? But there was a third author who wrote about him. His name was Henry Ford. You may have heard of him.
Christopher Columbus was a secret Jew with Jewish motives. Okay, let's see where this is leading. Let's keep watching.
He's the owner of the Ford Motor Company that we all know today. Of course, he's dead now, but he's the guy that started it. And he wrote this. Ben's going to read it out of a book called The International Jew.
Okay. The story of the Jews in America begins with Christopher Columbus. On August 2nd, 1492, more than 300,000 Jews were expelled from Spain, with which event Spain's prestige began its long decline. And on August 3rd, the next day, Columbus set sail for the West, taking a group of Jews with him. They were not, however, refugees, for the prophetic navigator's plans had aroused the sympathy of influential Jews for a long period previously.
So you're telling me, one day later, the next day,
that's right, the very next
Columbus sailed toward America, the day after the Jews were thrown out of Spain.
That's exactly right.
And what are the odds of that happening if this guy's really an Italian guy just funded by some queen's jewels?
It's almost a 0% chance.
So that's like hitting lottery like 4 times in a row.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So the day after they get thrown out of Spain, he's on a boat on the way to America.
Yep.
And we're supposed to believe he's not Jewish.
Apparently. Okay, so the next thing it says is, Columbus himself tells us that he consorted much with Jews. The first letter he wrote detailing his discoveries was to a Jew. Indeed, the eventful voyage itself, which added to men's knowledge and wealth, the other half of the earth was made possible by Jews. The pleasant story that it was Queen Isabella's jewels which financed the voyage has disappeared under cool research. There were 3 Marranos, or secret Jews, who wielded great influence at the Spanish court. Luis de Santagal, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, who was an important merchant of Valencia and who was farmer of the royal taxes. His relative Gabriel Sanchez, who was the royal treasurer, and their friend, the royal chamberlain, Juan Cabrero. These worked unceasingly on Queen Isabella's imagination, picturing to her the depletion of the royal treasury and the likelihood of Columbus discovering the fabulous gold of the Indies, until the Queen was ready to offer her jewels in pawn for the funds. But Santagal craved permission to advance the money himself, which he did. Associated with Columbus in the voyage were at least 5 Jews: Luis de Torres, interpreter; Marco the surgeon; Bernal the physician; Alonso de la Calle; and Gabriel Sanchez. The astronomical instruments and maps which the navigators used were of Jewish origin. Luis de Torres was the first man ashore, the first to discover the use of tobacco. He settled in Cuba and may be said to be the father of Jewish control of the tobacco business as it exists today.
Even before Columbus, there were people who wrote books that had strong beliefs that there was at least occult satanic influence over the purpose for America, and that the ancients who ran civilizations that were basically satanic, they were satanic and against God, that they knew and understood that our continent, the entire West, North America, South America, all of it, would be used to bring in a new world order. Now, if I start reading In the Secret Destiny of America, written by Manly Hall, it states this: the origin of the democratic ideal. World democracy was the secret dream of the great classical philosophers. Thousands of years before Columbus, they were aware of the existence of our Western Hemisphere and selected it to be the site of the philosophic empire. There you have him saying thousands of years before Columbus. And he seems to have done his study. In some areas, he seems a little wacky because he's an occultist, and he later himself became a Freemason. But this book was written before he became a Freemason, when he was just a researcher of history and philosophy, and even then he was a researcher of the occult, but he wasn't yet a Freemason. He goes on to say the brilliant plan of the ancients has survived to our time, and it will continue to function until the great work is accomplished. Now we see this kind of language in the mouth of the United States presidents when they say anyone, like Bill Clinton said, anyone who tries to stop our plan of peace and security will fail. They are motivated and dedicated with this same kind of language to accomplish this goal. If you go on to the second chapter in Manly P. Hall's book, In the Secret Destiny of America, the title of that chapter is The World's First Democrat. He goes on to explain how he believes that it's of Egyptian origin. This philosophical root, this big idea, like we hear George Bush talking about, of making a whole world order with this kind of democratic, socialist kind of government. He says the leader who had the first social consciousness in the administration of a nation was a pharaoh of Egypt, Akhenaten, born several thousand years too soon. He was the first realist in democracy, the first humanitarian, the first internationalist. Now, I'm going to recommend that you read this book. Of course, you can't take it all as truth. This guy is not a born-again Christian, but it definitely shows that there were people involved in occult traditions that understood that this is an ancient plan and that there was a plan for America, and even dating back before Columbus. Now, it's my personal belief that most of these traditions, right, are Luciferian at the core, but that the main people that are being used to carry out these traditions are the
Yeah, interestingly enough, I think Chris's biggest point is that he's saying that America, at its very core foundation, was Jewish. So to say that George Washington is a pure American man, don't talk about him, is just simply false. He was a Freemason who was heavily influenced by a Jew. I think that's just the facts. You know what I'm saying? Now, I have people hitting me up about Christopher Columbus, saying Christopher Columbus wasn't a Jew. But Chris did make a good point, though. Like, the very next day that all those Jews were kicked out, Columbus was relocating them somewhere else. An Italian is going to do that? Why is that in an Italian's interest? Now, some people are saying that he was Jewish and that it was well known that he was Jewish. Some people are hitting me up personally saying that he was not. But Chris did make a good point here, though. An Italian going to Cape for 300, for all those Jews, it doesn't add up there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just watching here and I'm just learning myself. Obviously, some of you guys agree and some of you guys disagree. And I'm going to open up the panels later. Does it matter whether it was George Washington that was mixed up with Jews? Yes. Because then we're the Jew United States of America, my friends. We're the Jew United States of America. And now all of this makes sense. It's no wonder America supports Israel so much. Israel made America. Israel made America. And if it's true, because I did look this up, let's go back to this video in a bit. We're in the 23-minute mark. So let me put this back so that I don't forget. 23-minute mark. All right. Let me start this real quick, just for me. So I actually did look this up. We're in the 23-minute mark. This guy right here. Where's this guy? Oh, man. Yes, we know he's a Freemason. Yes, Haim Solomon actually was a Jew. Let's look this up. Which is pretty interesting because they didn't teach us that. You know what I'm saying? A Jewish immigrant. I didn't know that. Jews' financial support. So that's just interesting. That's just interesting stuff. Dang, I can't even. What was I thinking? There we go. There we go. So yeah, this is interesting stuff. This guy was a Jew, and he was the one that financially supported George Washington. He actually even had his hand on some of the laws, some of the historical documents that we have today. So he's the guy that financed America. Now, obviously you can say, oh, this is all conspiracy or whatever, but it's true. A Jewish American hero. I didn't know this. I'll be honest, I didn't know this. I did fix the screen. But I didn't know this. Right? Like I looked this up and they actually have. Let me show you guys this real quick. It is true. Look at this man right next to George Washington. Right here. I can't get the image right. I mean, let's get this. Look at the guy right here. Holding hands with George Washington, literally. Literally holding hands with George Washington. Now, some people are saying he had no connection, but you know, I wish I would have known in school. Now let's carry on. Let's carry on.
And Christian, but it definitely shows that there were people involved in occult traditions that understood that this is an ancient plan and that there was a plan for America, and even dating back before Columbus. Now, it's my personal belief that most of these traditions, right, are Luciferian at the core, but that the main people that are being used to carry out these traditions are the synagogue of Satan, and of course it's biblical because they're called the synagogue of Satan. They are Jews who say they are Jews. They're outward Jews, but they're really not Jews, meaning they're really not true Jews, meaning they're not of the seed of Abraham because they're not believing in Christ by faith. So if you want to check this book out, if you look at the back of it, the main points are Christopher Columbus, who may have been an agent of an esoteric fraternity.
Nah, this is a one-off. I'm not gonna be doing topics like this on this kind of. I'm not going down this kind of rabbit hole. So, you know, you guys enjoy the show today. I'm gonna review a David Wood video after this because he spoke about Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. So I'm gonna review that video right after I finish this, and then we're gonna open up the panels and you guys can give me your commentary on this. But I'm not going down this kind of rabbit hole. No way. You know what I'm saying? But let's carry on.
Connected with Lorenzo de' Medici and Leonardo da Vinci, English intellectuals Bacon and Raleigh, who played unique roles in the court intrigue surrounding the settlement of the continent, founders Washington and Franklin had esoteric associations, and a network of Rosicrucians, mystics, and Freemasons whose ideals of religious freedom traveled to American soil. These are the main principles of this book, if you want to check it out. I want to listen to a few more things from this book, and then we're going to move on to the history with George Washington.
I also want to say that it's documented that before he became a Freemason, at a young age, he was associated with the Rosicrucians, Manly P. Hall. So that's probably where he got this from.
Right. So even though he wasn't yet a Mason, he was already flirting and dancing with other secret societies, right?
Yep.
Here's more from The Secret Destiny of America.
Thousands of years ago in Egypt, these mystical orders were aware of the existence of the Western Hemisphere and the great continent which we call America. The bold resolution was made that this Western continent should become the site of the philosophic empire. Just when this was done, it is impossible now to say, but certainly the decision was reached prior to the time of Plato, for a thinly veiled statement of this resolution is the substance of his treatise on the Atlantic Islands. One of the most ancient of man's constructive ideals is the dream of a universal democracy and a cooperation of all nations in a commonwealth of states. The mechanism for the accomplishment of this ideal was set in motion in the ancient temples of Greece, Egypt, and India. So brilliant was the plan and so well was it administered that it has survived to our time, and it will continue to function until the great work is accomplished.
There you see it for the second time. He's confident this will continue to function until the great work is accomplished. Where is his confidence coming from with these people that are involved in secret societies? It's almost like they're 100% sure of what's going to happen. They see it happening, they're commissioned to make it happen, and they're carrying it out. Like, how can this guy be speaking with this kind of confidence if he's not privy to certain information elsewhere in life? You know what I mean?
That's right. It also mentions that the whole world would be joined together as a commonwealth of nations. That sounds to me like a one world government, which is exactly what's outlined in the book of Revelation.
Right.
It is reasonably conceivable that in secrecy and anonymity, well-ordered aid has been given to the struggle for human equity and justice that has been America's destiny through the past into our present time. It is our duty and our privilege to contribute what we can to this universal plan. It will go on, served by the unknowns, until the Platonic Empire is established on the earth, and the towers of the new Atlantis rise from the ruins of a materialistic and selfish world.
Now, him talking about Atlantis, that's all speaking of Plato's influence and his philosophy over our government even today. Do you agree?
Yes, over the whole West, if you look it up, you'll find that Plato was one of the most influential people on basically our entire society.
Right. He's like right next to Christ in terms of his influence on modern day life in general.
Chapter 18. The symbols of the Great Seal of the U.S. Is the American eagle actually a phoenix? Selection of the fabulous bird of the ancients seems to have been the intention of the designer of our nation's Great Seal. The phoenix is the symbol of the reborn in wisdom. The design on the reverse of the Great Seal is even more definitely related to the order of the quest. The pyramid and the all-seeing eye represent the universal house surmounted by the radiant emblem of the great architect of the universe. These three symbols in combination is more than chance or coincidence.
There you have it. He's explaining how all of these symbols on our money point straight back to Lucifer. Lucifer is the phoenix. Lucifer is the all-seeing eye. According to Masonry, Lucifer is the great architect of the universe that they're all worshiping, which is why you see that square and compass. It all points to him as the one who built everything. That's who they're worshiping. Now we're going to transition into George Washington and the Revolutionary War and what that actually meant for Jewish influence over our country. Because again, we have Nick Fuentes selling flags with George Washington's face on it, acting like he's going to bring you back to the government and the ways of our founders, which were Jewish. Not George Washington being Jewish, but his ways were Jewish in the way he functioned, in the way he was a Mason. As far as I'm concerned, he had the religion of the Jews. So if he was a Mason, to me, he's basically Jewish. To me, any Freemason who's high up enough is basically a modern-day occultic Jew, a Luciferian Jew.
A Kabbalist.
Right? A Kabbalist. Doesn't mean that they're the Jews of the Old Testament. It doesn't mean that they're the Jews of our modern times that are not religious and don't care about the Kabbalah or the Talmud. It just means that they are fake Jews, basically, in the way they practice their occult practices. So we're going to go on now to discuss the Articles of Confederation and the Revolutionary War. We're going to watch a little something, and then we're going to comment on it to bring clarity.
But the war itself had also produced a new generation of leaders who saw themselves as part of a common American nation rather than any one state, and rejected the war's goals of restoring colonial autonomy as not having gone far enough, eventually leading to a convention that would establish a new federal constitution. Although no Jews participated in the convention, the stakes of the occasion were just as profound to the Jewish community as the war had been. Establishing a federal government meant establishing rules for who could serve in federal office. In Britain, assuming office required swearing an explicitly Christian oath, and this had been one of the motivating factors of Jewish support for American independence.
Okay, so you see there, he just mentioned that the main priority for the Jews at that time was this, that at the time of the colonies, Britain was ruling them. And the British government did not allow Jews to serve in office. They had to swear an oath that they believe in the New Testament. And so the Jews did not like that. They wanted to be able to serve in office. So when the Independence War happened, they crafted a new constitution. And in that new constitution, they explicitly stated that there shall be no religious test. What does that mean? That means now it's not just Christians that can serve in government, it's all religions.
Mm-hmm. Now, most people might say, that's a good thing, religious freedom. I don't believe that, do you?
Absolutely not.
Do you believe that people that hate Jesus Christ should be allowed to take roles in our government here?
Absolutely not. Why would we want the synagogue of Satan to be in government?
Can you explain to the people why we were just talking about Columbus? We were just talking about even before Columbus with Manly P. Hall saying that there was a plan for this, a Luciferian plan for this way before Columbus. But by the time we get to Columbus, we could see clearly that there's a plan of the synagogue of Satan, people with Jewish.
All right, I'm out of curiosity. Drop a one if you guys agree with what Chris is saying. Drop a one if you agree with what Chris is saying. Drop a one. We're going to do a little poll here. All right, so drop a one. Because this is, as a matter of fact, we'll do a poll. That's what we'll do. We'll do a poll. Let's do a poll. Out of curiosity. Hold on. Let's carry on.
Motives in discovering this country, colonizing it, coming here to use it for their purposes. Can you explain to these people why at this point they're dealing with an internal battle within our country?
So originally, when Columbus came, the Jews saw America as a land for them to have complete religious freedom. And that was the case in many places. However, when the British started coming over and forming colonies, the 13 colonies, quickly they started to reenact the same things that the Jews were running from. So they were running from this religious intolerance that had happened in England. For example, in 1290, they actually expelled all the Jews from England. And this actually lasted for, I think, up until about the 1800s. So this is after even the United States of America was formed. They still were not granted full citizenship in England. And now, because the colonies were ruled by England, the same things were in effect. So Jews were persecuted. They were not allowed to hold office. They were not granted full citizenship. And so we believe that the Jews wanted to start this Revolutionary War in order that they can get their rights. And it worked. They did get their rights. After George Washington led the Revolutionary War and they won, the Constitution, as this man said, in the Constitution, they were explicitly granted full rights as religious Jews.
So basically, the Jews came first, if Columbus and them are...
Fellas, I don't have a Muslim audience. I don't have a Muslim audience. Like, that's crazy. People are saying they're voting yes because it's a Muslim audience. Now, the 70%, 68 to, let's just say 70, it's 70-30. 70 agree with Chris, 30 do not agree with Chris. So it's like a 70-30 right now. Let's carry on.
Crypto Jews looking for a land to be free. Then people from England started coming over also, and they tried to set up their own order and their own ways. And those ways didn't include Jews running for government or really having a prominent role in society. So the Jews, the Freemasons, Ham Solomon, had to get involved.
Exactly. And so they came here hoping for religious freedom. And you can imagine when they saw that the very same people, the King of England, was starting to build up power in America, they were getting worried. And they did not want that to happen. So yes, they fully financed the Revolutionary War. And that was the thing that led to their full inclusion politically in the United States of America.
But many U.S. states also still required a Christian oath, and the application of such oaths at the federal level was very much an open question. Unable to remain silent, former Army cryptographer Jonas Phillips, who was already lobbying for Jewish emancipation in Pennsylvania, wrote directly to the presiding delegate George Washington.
This man, Jonas Phillips, was himself a Freemason and Jewish.
So you're telling me you have a Freemason financed by a Freemason, and now a Freemason is writing a letter to the same Freemason that was financed by a Freemason?
That's correct, yes.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is well known among all the citizens of the 13 United States that the Jews have been true and faithful Whigs, and during the late contest with England, they've been foremost in aiding and assisting the states with their lives and fortunes. They've supported the cause, have bravely fought, and bled for liberty which they cannot enjoy. Therefore, if the honorable convention shall in their wisdom think fit and alter the said oath, and leave out the words to viz, and I do acknowledge the scriptures of the New Testament to be given by divine inspiration, then the Israelites will think themselves happy to live under a government where all religious societies are on an equal footing. I solicit this favor for myself, my children, and posterity.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So it was this guy that essentially made, wait, so you're telling me that Christianity was basically America was a Christian country. Many places were Christian entities. And this guy, just with a little pen there, made Jews and Christians equal, and it no longer was Christians running the show. And nobody said anything about that? That's interesting. I wonder if Muslims would allow Jews to go to their nations and be equal. And listen, man, I hate to say this, but America would have been a better place if Christians were running the show. America would have been a better place if Christians were running the show. But whoever this guy is right here, he essentially made Christians equal to Jews, and now we are at where we're at. Whereas if this wouldn't have happened, granted, perhaps there would have been some liberal areas, but this would have really been a Christian country by and large. This would have been a real Christian country by and large. So just with the move of a pen, You know, there goes Christianity. That's wild. Now, somebody said Christians didn't believe black people were people. That would have obviously been reformed, because Christians believe that today, right? Yep, Mamdani would have never been able to run for office if this guy right here didn't sign that and pass that. That's insane. Makes you wonder what America would be today. Makes you wonder. You know? And granted, Christians make mistakes and everything like that, but Christians were here, and Jews and other religions, if they existed in America, were here. And then with a swipe of a pen, now we're both here. Crazy. It really is. It's crazy. You know, they didn't teach this. They didn't teach this in school. Let's carry on.
Posterity, and for the benefit of all the Israelites through the 13 United States of America.
So there we have the first evidence of a member of the synagogue of Satan trying to stomp out sole faith in Christ as the qualifying factor to get you to run for government in this country.
Yeah, this is bad. That's bad. You see, there are a lot of things in this video that I saw that I looked up. There are some debates on some of that stuff. Like there's some debates, some things are argued. Like some of my friends were hitting me up personally. They was like, well, this right here is contested, but we got to admit that Chris was hitting home runs in a lot of things. You could say he struck out on a lot, but the fact of the matter is that we were literally a Christian nation at one point. Now that's interesting. We were a Christian nation. We were. That is a fact. And overnight, we were a Jewish and Christian nation. And now we're a Muslim and Jewish and Christian nation. And now we're a Muslim, Jewish, and Christian and Hindu nation. And now we're a Buddhist. And now this is all we're at. Insane. We're still going to watch that David Wood video, and then I'm going to add guest in.
So it's right there. He wants to take it out that you must have faith in the New Testament to qualify to run, right?
Yep.
So now George Washington, this letter's to George Washington, right?
That's correct.
So he's actually beseeching him, pleading with them to let them have their religious freedom. But with that comes the right for a Satanist to run for government, a Hindu, because this was where they knocked it out, where there was any religious test.
That's right.
So in the selfishness of the synagogue of Satan, in their need to take the test about believing in the New Testament out, they open the door for every kind of pagan religion, anybody who believes in a pagan religion to run for office in our government. Correct?
That's exactly right.
I don't even want to finish this video, man. This video broke my dang heart. I wish I wouldn't have known that information. My life would have been better. And I'm not going to research this any longer. That's it. We were a Christian nation, bro. We were a Christian, bro. We ran the states, bro. And we gave it up. We ran this. We called the shots. We made the rules. We made the legislation. That means that if somebody would have came up to us with some alphabet propaganda, we could have shut it down. Oh, you believe in alphabet marriage? We can shut that down. You believe in helophobia? You know what I'm saying? Helophobia. Because that one day will be legalized. Rest assured. But you believe in helophobia? You guys know what I'm saying. Oh, we're shutting it down. Granted, the Christians were not good back then. A lot of them weren't. You know what I'm saying? Which is obviously you reform and obviously things of that sort. But George Washington sold us out. And for Nick Fuentes to say we need to go back to him, you disgraceful little man. You disgraceful little rodent. What a disgrace Nick Fuentes is. You want to go back to George Washington, who sold us out in the first place? And this is why we have this mess in the first. The reason that we're at where we're at right now is George Washington's fault. The reason that we're at where we're at right now is because of George Washington. And yes, I believe in immigration in the sense that it's beautiful that America has different cultures. But these cultures would have had to submit to Christianity. These cultures would have had to submit to Christianity. Just how if I go to Dubai, I must submit to Islam. This Muslim fool just said, join forces with us. We'll take care of the alphabet problem and give freedom to Christians. Oh yeah, I'm a fool for that one. Thank you for watching though, but maybe I do have a large Muslim audience. Dang, bro. Damn. George Washington, man, you messed us up. You messed us up. I don't even want to finish this video, man. I'll finish it, but dang. George Washington, bro. The guy, Nick Fuentes has George Washington flags. And this man, Nick Fuentes, was saying, we have to go back to George Washington. Now, I heard there were some founding fathers that were Christian. Let's get that straight. I heard there were some founding fathers that were Christian, but let's carry on.
So what did George Washington do, not necessarily in response to this letter, but because there was this pressure upon him?
Right. In 1790, George Washington wrote a letter to the Hebrew congregation in Newport, and in this letter, he addressed this idea that the Jews need full citizenship rights. They need freedom, essentially. And his famous response to this was, to bigotry, no sanction. To persecution, no assistance. So you can see there that he was the person really pushing for this agenda.
So, bro, George Washington was the first liberal. George Washington was the first liberal. Did you guys hear what I said? George Washington is the first liberal, pushing propaganda to make the Christian states not Christian.
The government.
Right. So why is Nick Fuentes calling this guy a hero and a titan if he's actually opening the door to the people that Nick Fuentes attacks on a daily basis?
I have no idea why he's doing that.
What do you think George Washington, the hero, the titan,
So you ask yourself that question. Nick, if you end up watching this video or someone sends this to you, please do a big stream on Rumble, letting us know why you're promoting George Washington and Alexander Hamilton as a titan, when Alexander Hamilton is said to be a Jew, raised by a Jewish mother, went to Jewish school, and George Washington is practicing the Luciferian religion of the Jews. Please do a Rumble and tell us why you're doing that, Nick.
Okay, so just to make this crystal clear to you guys, take a look at this chart here. It says George Washington and Jewish equality in the New Republic. Before the revolution, Jews faced Christian oaths and office bans in most colleges.
Get the F out of here, bro. We had the Jews taking Christian oaths. We had the Jews taking Christian oaths. We was really running America like that? We was running America like that? We was running America. See, tokenomics. See, brother, I love you, brother. And you were being a contrarian this whole a contrarian this whole live stream, right? You were disagreeing, and that's fine. But brother, you got to admit, George Washington sold us dry, brother. George Washington did us dirty. George Washington did us dirty, brother, tokenomics. And that's history. That's history. Tokenomics, we had Jews giving oaths to us. Tokenomics, we made the rules. That would be like going to Dubai and then people in Dubai just say, let's make legislation to make the Jews equal, and they lose power. Now this brother, now tokenomics ain't agree with Chris the whole live stream, but he agrees here. I don't even know how to feel about this. I might do a separate live stream on this alone. Like I might do a separate live stream or a video on this. So we were doomed from the beginning. We were, and this is a fact, because I texted one of my brothers in Christ. He said, I got to do my own research, but you can't deny the facts. George Washington? No wonder we're at where we're at. Who does that? Notice Europe does it. Europe is destroyed. The UK did it. They're destroyed. Right? Europe, UK, we get it. But specifically the UK, because we see those videos. You look at France. You look at all these places, destroyed. Because they did what George Washington did once upon a time. Now you got people running in politics who aren't even Americans. People who hate America, who hate Jesus, are running in politics today, all because of George Washington. Listen, you can ignore everything Chris LaSalle said for the first 40 minutes of this video. 34 minutes. The facts are the facts. And now this is all adding up because, yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. Wow. Yo, everybody type L George Washington, man. L George Washington. I don't believe in intercession of the saints, but hopefully that man can hear us from the dead. L to George Washington. I don't believe in intercession of the saints, but I might make an exception just for today. L to George Washington, man, for ruining America before it even really got started. Come on, Georgie, what the heck you doing just giving up our country like that? I mean, tokenomics ain't agree with nothing in this video. Tokenomics ain't agree with anything in this video. And he's agreeing now. He's agreeing now. Now, why is this Muslim saying L. George Washington? He's the reason you're here. You should have the dollar bill in your Muslim countries, because George Washington is the reason that you're here. George Washington is the reason that your religion is equal to mine in the eyes of the law. So if you're a Muslim, you should be printing your own dollar bills with George Washington's face. If you're a Jew, you should be printing your own George Washington dollar bills in Israel. Because he's the reason that you're equal to me religious-wise. We were running the show in America. We were running the show. So why would a Muslim say L. George Washington? All religions are equal because of George Washington. How do you give up a country, bro? I'll tell you why. Because George Washington wasn't a Christian. So why would he care that Jews and Christians are equal? Wow. Wow. I'm really in a loss of words. I really am in a loss of words, man. Wow. I know half the stream I've been saying what. Now look, listen, I'm gonna tell y'all, man. Some of the things in the stream that look like conspiracy. I'm not gonna lie, but this right here, man. Wow.
Tolerated economically, excluded politically. Now, when it says a Christian oath there, that's exactly what that man was talking about when he said, take out the New Testament being something we need to swear is true. Then it says, after independence, the Revolutionary War and new Constitution 1787 broke that barrier. No religious tests for office, Article 6. Washington affirmed this change in his 1790 Newport letter. The government of the United States gives to bigotry no sanction.
You guys are not going to tell me that wasn't Kamala Harris, the spirit of Kamala Harris and George Washington? Are you guys going to tell me that it wasn't Kamala Harris back then? You see, I've been a fool the whole time. I thought liberals were came into existence in the 60s. And then obviously then the 80s and the 90s and then the 2000s, it kind of calmed down. And then in the 2010s, I thought liberals, bro, we had liberals since the beginning of America, bro, attacking Christians. Since the beginning of America, we had Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, leftist liberals ever since then. George Washington was a liberal. Look at it. Look at it. You see, it is true. History does repeat itself. History does repeat itself. Because this is what these guys do today. Oh, we don't, it's all about equality. Listen to the, fellas, you guys got to listen to this. It's all about equality. We all have to be equal. No bigotry. We're all the same. But what are they really saying? What are they really saying? What are they really saying? Everybody drop a like right now, but what are they really saying?
To persecution, no assistance. Everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree. Washington affirmed this change in his 1790 Newport letter. So we see here that Washington is the one affirming this change. Now remember, the Newport letter was specifically written to a Jewish congregation in Newport. Then it says, his leadership and words guaranteed Jews full citizenship and eligibility for public office, setting a precedent for religious liberty in America.
10 days later, the convention issued its final draft for the proposed constitution for ratification by the states. Included in its text was Article 6, Clause 3. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath of affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. In North Carolina, one of the last states to ratify the Constitution.
Again, to this Muslim guy, liberalism is bad for Christians, but liberalism is excellent for Islam. Brother, I don't know what kind of planet you're living in, brother. You can't be a Muslim and say liberalism is bad. You should have a George Washington tattoo on your chest, Abu.
Delegate David Caldwell furiously condemned this exact clause, calling it an invitation for Jews and pagans of every kind to come among us. At some future period, this might endanger the character of the United States. Moreover, even those who do not regard religion acknowledge that the Christian religion is best calculated of all religions to make good members of society on account of its morality. All those who have any religion are against the immigration of those people from the Eastern Hemisphere.
Dr. David Caldwell was an absolute genius back in 1789. He said that if we let them in, this could affect the character of America down the road and be a problem. And that's
Did you hear what this man just said? If we let them...
exactly what we're seeing today in our times,
Absolutely.
Right? Our politicians have been bought and paid for and sold out to the synagogue of Satan. And there were men that knew it was coming all the way back in 1789. And
y'all notice how Democrats and Republicans can't agree with nothing, but when it comes to Israel, they always agree. Did y'all notice that? It doesn't matter if it's AOC. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. It doesn't matter if it's Biden. As soon as Israel's in the picture, they all agree. They're all bought off. That's why the Epstein files haven't been released. That's why the JFK files were only released partially. That's why The MLK files haven't been released. That's why the 9/11 files have not been released, because we don't really know who's really involved with all of this. Interesting, right? Interesting, right? Isn't that very interesting?
Other religions too. We see Muslim people now getting into government here also.
Right. So you may say, Chris, what do we do? What do we do? It sounds like we're beat. It sounds like there's no point in fighting this. The only thing you do to fight this is you make people aware of it, and then you direct them to Christ. You direct them to lead as many souls to Christ as possible, and most importantly, deal with your own flesh and your own demons, and submit to God in the sanctification process, because judgment is coming. Americans are too stupid. The average American, the vast majority of Americans are too stupid, lazy, and incompetent and broke to have any effect fighting this new world order. These oligarchs and these tech guys, these mega tech companies, and these synagogue of Satan run war companies can do. There's nothing we could do about it. This is prophecy. We are not supposed to. We're definitely not supposed to support the synagogue of Satan. So what do? We do the work of God until we're taken out. You don't love this life and you don't love this world unto the death. You live for Christ.
Yeah, and let me go on the record. I'm done supporting, and I hear what Chris is saying, and I agree. I'm done. I'm not a Republican anymore. I denounced my Republican crap. That's done. I identify as a Christian. If anything, I identify as a independent. I'll say I'm an independent because I'll vote. But I'm not a Republican no more. That disgraceful FBI director, everybody's a full-blown disgrace, man. Everybody's bought off. All of them. Trump is bought off. All these guys are bought off. And man, I really, really, really put my faith in Trump. Now, obviously not in the sense of Christ, but I put my faith in him in the sense politically, right? So that's it. I'm done. I don't support Trump. I'm not a Republican anymore. I used to identify as a Republican. I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm going to call evil out everywhere. So wherever I see evil, I'm going to just call it out. If there's evil anywhere, I'm just calling it out. I don't care if it's Republican or not. Me and my friend Long Island, I'm not going to say his name. I call him Long Island as a nickname. Me and my friend Long Island, we talk privately. This man sends me 40 text messages throughout the week showing me crap Republicans are doing. And me and him voted for Trump. He doesn't even send me Democrat tweets. All he sends me is Republican crap. Donald Trump crap. Now Donald Trump is trying to gaslight everybody into believing that wanting the Epstein files is a Democrat liberal propaganda to distract everybody from what's really going on. No, what's really going on is that you don't want to release it. Because there are probably people from the synagogue of Satan, we know who those people are, that are probably in that list. And they've paid you good amounts of money. People that probably even funded your campaign are probably in that list. But I don't think Christians should support Republicans. I don't think Christians should support Democrats. I think you should vote. I don't even know what to say anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to vote for Vance. Hell no. That's quiet. I'm not voting for Vance. I'm not voting for Vance. I'm just not going to vote. This is what it is. Liars, bro. Liars. That's what these guys are, liars.
Right? That's right. So be blessed and have a good day. And remember, don't fear these people. Turn to Christ, turn to the scriptures, especially the New Testament that this synagogue of Satan wanted to take out as a religious test to run for office. Turn to the New.
Fellas, you're telling me that we used to live in a world where the New Testament was used to test people? We had clout like that? Oh my God. I don't even know who unalived Charlie Kirk at this point. I don't even know. I don't trust anybody in the government. I don't trust anybody. And if you're a Republican and you have an issue with what I said, let me go on the record. Let me remove Chris from here. Let me go on the record, because I know there's a couple of people that I know that are pro-Trump and they're Christians and all that. If you're going to run your mouth about Donald Trump and you're going to hit me up privately, you better not. This is a warning. If you're watching and you're a brother from a church or something and you're watching this and you're a pro-Trump or whatever the case may be, and you want to reach out to me personally and go, JP, what are you doing? How can you attack Trump or whatever the case? You better not do that unless you have the Epstein files. You better send me them dang Epstein files. And I better see them 9/11 files attached too, or I'm going to call you a rat. You see, I don't curse people out, but you're going to be called a rat. And I don't want to call you a rat, because if you're a Christian, that means I'm going to be in a state of sin and I'm going to have to repent later. So don't hit me up, because you're going to be called a rat. You know, I'm a Christian, man. I'm going to spread the gospel. I believe in this. I believe in the gospel. And you know what? One day I won't be able to do this. One day, oh my gosh, bro. I just felt so angry to just curse somebody out. One day, the very country that we ran, where we had New Testament scriptures as a test to people, one day it will be illegal to even preach the gospel that we once was able to do while running the country. One day it will be illegal to do that. One day it will be illegal. Imagine going from having a Christian state where you are running the country with Christianity, you then give up your Christianity for free. Wasn't even a war. You gave it up for free. To doing that, to now ending up in a place where Christianity is censored and you can get arrested for it. We'll get there one day. We'll get there. And it's a dang shame, because it's really going to sting. That really stings. It really, really stings. It really stings that we ran the show in this country, bro. And now I'm going to be banned from giving the gospel. That really stings. That hurts me. That bothers me. I'm going to lose sleep over this. You gave up your own house, and now you're about to get kicked out your own dang house. You're about to get kicked out your own dang house. But you know what? One thing I believe in: give me liberty or give me death. I'm going to preach the gospel, because that's the only thing that'll never, ever let me down. Even though I'll get censored, I'll get unalived, and I love that Jews hate the gospel. Isn't that something beautiful? Let the world hate the gospel will always have my back. I don't care if you're a Muslim, a Jew, the world hates the gospel. Specifically the Jews, because Paul said the Jews crucified Christ. The world hates the gospel. You guys ever notice that? But we stand by the gospel. We stand by the gospel. That's the only thing that hasn't been corrupted, the only thing that hasn't been changed, the only thing that hasn't been twisted. The hell with George Washington. He's burning in hell. The hell with George Washington. Literally. for giving up this Christian land up to people that hate Christ. But the gospel will always stand. Jesus is king. He's the Lord of Lords, and I serve him, not Donald Trump. What a rat Donald Trump is. So let's continue to preach the gospel. Let's continue to push forward. Let's continue to do that. All right? Let's carry on.
New Testament, turn to Jesus Christ. God bless you, and God bless the people of America.
God bless.
Our purpose is the same as it was 60 years ago, the preservation of peace and security.
In Singapore, I'll be meeting with Kim Jong-un to pursue a future of peace and security for the world, for the whole world.
End the war in Gaza and bring peace and security to the Middle East.
Is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
To help realize a shared vision of two democratic states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security.
If their intention was to deter us from our mission of promoting peace and security in the Middle East, they will fail utterly.
Let us base our decisions about peace and security on the facts, and not on what we're told we must fear.
Jared Kushner is in Egypt right now drawing up new peace plans for the Middle East that the book of Daniel tells us the Antichrist will set up. 1 Thessalonians 5:3 says that people will be saying peace and safety, but then what comes is sudden destruction.
Wow, that was a good sermon, whatever that was, man. Wow. 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 Some idiot just reached out to me via the message. And he said the Jews didn't crucify Christ. Hold on. Okay, 1 second. Let me see if I can find this. All right, real quick. Let's read this real quick. For you, brothers, became imitators of the churches of God in Christ Jesus that are in Judea. For you suffered the same things from your own countrymen as they did from the Jews, who killed both the Lord Jesus and the prophet. Paul says the Jews killed the Lord Jesus and the prophets. So you should request up before you say I know nothing. And you are a rat, but he wasn't defending Trump. All right. If anybody wants to talk for a moment, you can. The link is pinned. The link is pinned. And then we're going to go over the Davis Wood video. So again, if you want to chat, click the request link button. I pinned it. Should be pinned. And if not, then yeah, we'll keep it pushing. Wow, this is nuts. All right. How's it going, sir?
What's going on, Joe? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, I got here pretty late. So I was just curious as to what was the deal with Nick Fuentes.
Well, Nick Fuentes is telling us that we have to go back to what George Washington was and that we shouldn't talk about George Washington. George Washington is the very person that put us in this mess in the first place because America used to be mostly a Christian nation. With the swipe of a pen, now we became equal to the Jews. So just historically speaking, George Washington isn't a figure that we should look to as a victorious man. He actually put us in this mess in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, I did hear you say that George Washington was a rat.
Yes, he was a rat because we were a Christian nation at one point, very early on. And we're not a Christian nation anymore because there's legislation that passed back then which makes other religions equal to us. When that was not the case, people used to swear and get tested by the New Testament.
Okay. Would you say that would include atheism as well? When they say like
Yes, everybody had to. Christians ran the show. Period. Yeah, they were atheists, but you know, they were swearing it. They were tested by the New Testament.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, I do agree that this nation should be ran by Christians. So I see the title. Apparently Nick Fuentes says something about Protestants.
Yeah, but he's an idiot. I don't listen to him when he talks about Christianity.
Okay.
Like he said, Protestants are not saved, Orthodox are not saved, only Catholics are saved. But he's an idiot, right? So I don't care what he says, right? Like regarding religion, I don't care. No.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, but
if you're gonna come up here and say that only Catholics are saved, I mean you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I agree.
And he is an idiot. You know, he said the Holocaust didn't happen. All kinds of things. You know what I'm saying?
No, that guy is crazy. Yeah, I just wanted to come and get some clarity on that.
Yeah.
I'll go back and watch the stream if I get a chance to.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, for sure. All right, brother. God bless.
God bless.
No, yeah, Fuentes is an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like he said that. He said the only Christians that are saved are or not Orthodox, are Catholics. Said Protestants are not saved, Orthodox are not saved, only Catholics are saved. He's an idiot. I mean, he doesn't even know the Bible. He doesn't even know the Bible. So, you know, that's I don't pay attention to guys like that. And if you're a Protestant and you try to use Nick Fuentes as a way to attack Catholicism, you're just as stupid because he doesn't represent Catholicism. He doesn't even know what Catholicism is. He doesn't know anything. So yeah, Nick Fuentes is an idiot. All right. All right, let's watch this video real quick. Now, this was an interesting video. This was an interesting video right here.
This is a fake US $100 bill. This is also a fake US $100 bill. Which one is worse? You might think that this fake bill is worse than this fake bill because this one's more obviously fake. But wouldn't being more obviously fake make it better, not worse? Doesn't the fact that it's easier to spot?
Welcome to the Jewish states of America, my friend. I can't hear you. Tokenomics.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, brother.
Okay, great. Long time no see. How are you?
Good to see you, my brother. How's it going?
Okay, not too bad. I just want to clarify. I think for sure Washington had the L the whole time. I know Washington, biggest L. But I just was trying to say that Nick and Chris have their information all mixed up, and watching them both and seeing all this crazy stuff, you got to be very careful. If there's a grain of truth, they cover it up with a bunch of nonsense that if you were to go and say the grain of truth, you end up looking like a fool because you're spitting this, that, and the other thing out. It's like, what does Columbus have anything to do with George Washington? And trying to make this occult Kabbalistic link doesn't work when there's actual true history as far as Jewish mysticism and the growth of Kabbalah and other kinds of antinomian sects. This is all established in scholarly work, and you can absolutely make a case for whatever you're saying about the founding fathers from scholarly research. But when you try to make the case from the kind of information you'd find in like a TikTok, it becomes a little bit mixed up and it defeats whatever validity you had. So that was my issue with Chris, because he's making a positive statement about George Washington, and I'm going to tell you that there is something there with Washington that's on record and you can find in the Washington Library. But when you start bringing in Ophir and this and that, which was never even historically a Jewish mythos, you lose the connection.
No,
But when
I will say this. It was interesting, the connection that he did make. Now, again, I'm not very well versed with this stuff like that. Like, I'll be honest.
JT, let me clear it up.
Mhm.
So our point in the video was that if George Washington is a Freemason, and we show clear quotes that Freemasonry is connected to the Kabbalah, like we have Manly P. Hall saying directly that it's Kabbalistic in its nature. We have what was his name again?
Albert Pike.
Albert Pike saying directly that Freemasonry goes back to the Kabbalah. That's our point. Don't you get it?
Right. But what I'm saying is the point might be solid, but the evidence and the connections you're making to validate that point are very
Well, you just
zeitgeist.
said that. What does George Washington have to do with Columbus, right?
Well, I want to tell you, Ben, if you want to pitch that angle of Freemasonry with George Washington, I would say that there's better evidence, and one of that pieces of evidence is a letter that was written between George Washington and George Washington Schneider in regards to Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the Illuminati's growth in the Bavarian Lodge. So that is also on record in the library.
Your point, we had good proof. We had the people.
No, my point is that there's scholarly proof, and then there's wild, unscholarly claims.
You're saying that Albert Pike, one of the most famous Freemasons, he has a statue in Washington.
I know Albert Pike. He was born in the 19th century.
Yeah, but
he would be born after what I'm telling you about, which is the evidence.
I don't see how
George Washington
you can say
was
that
around.
that's not scholarly evidence. Wouldn't a guy that's a 33rd degree Freemason directly saying
all the symbols are from the Kabbalah?
Yeah, their symbols are from the Kabbalah.
So,
the 33 rituals are from the Kabbalah. How is that a crackpot evidence that you're trying to claim?
Because the rise of the antinomian occult related to Kabbalah. So that would be the Sabbatai Zevi or the Jacob Frank offshoots, right? They did not derive until the 17th century. So when you have a Freemasonry being an organization that is much older, you can't quite take someone who was born in the 8th century after the influence of Kabbalistic leadership towards the late 18th century, right? This was just a single lodge towards the late 18th century. You may have one or two individuals such as Albert who may have been misinformed. No. What we're talking about is the entity, the antinomian occult influence on Freemasonry. So this specific,
So you're saying
uh,
Freemasonry was good before, and then it
how
became
would I have
bad?
said that? What I'm saying is that Freemasonry is historically an organization that has been around longer than the more recent antinomian influence. So when you're trying to make certain connections, things like Columbus and other, the positions that you presented don't necessarily have a connection to the actual valid claim of Freemasonry being influenced in the 18th century.
But you know what our point was, right? Our point is they've all had this one agenda for a long time, which is
I
what?
understand what
The
your
one
point
world
is,
government.
but when
So hold on,
you
let me explain it, man.
no, I
So
understand the
let
point.
me
The
explain
the
it,
issue is
all
not the point.
right?
Go ahead.
Let
Go
me say
ahead.
it. Columbus specifically said that his goal was to rebuild Jerusalem, right? To bring in the Messiah. Now, he also explicitly said that the Messiah, he needed to do that to bring in the Messiah. Now, if the Messiah has to sit in the third temple, that sounds a lot like the Antichrist to me. The Bible says that the
I understand what
Antichrist
you're
will sit in
saying,
the
Ben.
temple.
He
Yeah.
had this particular mission and goal,
So
but there's
how is
no
that not
connection
valid, bro?
between because historically we've had over 3,000 years plus of antinomian occultist groups arising all
Exactly.
throughout the world, right? But what I'm trying to say is that Columbus having, even if you argue that he has this ideology, it's not necessarily, and it isn't
How is
connected
it not
to
connected? They have
the
the same goal,
antinomian
bro.
occult. Because it's not connected to the antinomian occultish movement that happened within Freemasonry several centuries later.
Okay, but if that's your point, nonetheless, you would have to agree that there was this agenda way before even Freemasonry was founded, and then Freemasonry was used to push that agenda.
Well,
So
antinomian occult groups have arisen all throughout the world, all throughout time.
sure,
That
but
so,
that's our point, bro. Our point is Columbus had the same agenda as George Washington, as a lot of these people did. So that's our point. What's
you're
your
making a very hard and specific statement that there is this one that Columbus is connected to the same Freemasonry goal, which which
this
honestly,
is what
according
we
to
said.
scholarly research, wouldn't have even grown
Okay,
and matured
scholarly
at that
research,
rate
bro.
by the late 18th
We
century.
didn't even say in the video once that George Washington was connected to Columbus. You know that, right? Our point with Columbus is that he was a secret Jew. His DNA that they
He wasn't a secret Jew. He was very well known to be Jewish. A
no, he
Jewish
wasn't,
identity
dude. What
was
are you
very.
talking about? Are you
I
serious?
think you need to speak to SoCal Preston in regards to the
Wait. You
identity
know,
of
most people
Jewish
think he was a
people
Catholic, right?
history.
You know, most people think he was a Catholic, right?
Well, what most people think now is not uh, relevant to what most people
So,
knew
so
then.
basically, you admit that we're right. We said Columbus was a secret Jew. So
Well,
that was our
academics already know that Columbus was Jewish in ethnicity and origin. What do you?
Thank you, sir.
But
Thank
how
you.
does that relate
Well, I'll
to
tell you our point then. Our point
Freemasonry
is,
and the early leaders of our country? That there's no connection there. I'm just trying to tell you that if you want to make an argument that is valid, you need
why
valid
are they
evidence, or
teaching in
else you
school that he
look
was
like
Jewish?
someone who's coming off of TikTok and you destroy the entire position.
You even understand our point? Our point is that Jewish interests influenced America from the beginning. So Columbus went right with Jews. He was Jewish. They came here. We said
Columbus
that.
wasn't even looking for America.
How do you know that?
Well, even you said he was looking for Ophir. At the time, Ophir was known to be in South America or within
No,
the
no, no, no.
Indies. There was
The
no Ophir.
gold.
There was no North America even known
The gold. He was
on
looking for the
cartography.
gold. He knew about that there was a land here. Are you serious, man?
Not
You're
in
saying
North
that
America.
you're saying that
It
he
was it
didn't
was
know.
Ophir. Ophir may have been stipulated to be as far as Patagonia.
Okay, but that's not the point. The
There
point
was
is
no
he
there
knew
was
about
no
America, bro.
he didn't
He
set
set
sight
sail to
coming to
come to
North
America.
America to create a land or anything
Do
like
you
that.
agree?
If he was, as you said, he was looking for gold, he would have been heading to South America.
America. That's the Americas, bro. Yeah, we agree.
America is half of the world almost.
We
It's a whole
believe.
hemisphere
Did
that
you
is
read
made of many tectonic plates and regions. What are you talking about?
exactly? Thank you. In our video, what did that guy Manly
Oh,
P.
that's
Hole
like
say?
saying Columbus was trying to sail.
No, Manly
He
P.
was
Hole
trying to
said
sail
that
to the world. No,
no,
I'm sorry, but Ben,
no, dude,
if
listen to
you
me, please. Let me speak. Manly P. Hall specifically said that their goal was to come to the Western Hemisphere to set up their agenda. If he went to South America, it's no different. It's still the Western Hemisphere.
if you're stating that he was looking for Ophir, Ophir at the time was known to be potentially within South America as far as Patagonia.
Okay, look. So they're what was he going to use with that gold? What was his plan that he specifically stated?
He wasn't the only one. People for hundreds of
Bro,
years have been
please,
looking for
man.
Ophir.
So
It's a
hold on a second.
Phoenician myth.
So you admit that he was coming to get gold, right?
I'm not saying anything about my position. I'm talking about the evidence that you have for whatever position that you have.
So hold on. You admit Christopher Columbus was Jewish. You
Hold
admit
on,
that
hold
he
on,
was.
Chris. Ben. Hold on. Before we go there, we're gonna continue. Tokenomics. Do you agree that that Jewish guy helped fund George Washington, and he was the one pretty much funded America in those particular cases? Would you agree with that?
Well, there are a bunch of financiers, and historically, this Haim Solomon guy is definitely academically and known to
Because
scholars as
he's
one of the
literally
financiers.
he's
There we
literally
go.
yeah, he's literally in that statue with George Washington. Granted, anybody could be on the
Right.
statue, but it's almost credited like he's the guy that helped build America in the first place, you know?
And then JP.
No, JP, I'm telling you, Washington gets the L for sure. And if at the very least Washington gets the L, if he, for because he was told about the Illuminati and he dismissed it and did nothing about it.
No,
So
he
that
dismissed it
that
and
is the
joined them.
very
Are you
least.
serious?
No, what I'm saying
No,
is
he
that
dismissed
is
it
the
and
most
joined them.
academic and most scholarly thing that you can say right now to any single academic, any historian, and
Okay,
they'll be like, yeah, that's
tokenomics.
correct.
Tell me, is the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill a satanic symbol?
Ben,
I mean, it's
I
Masonic.
hear where you're coming from, but what I'm
just
saying is
say
if
it.
you were
Yes
to
or
go
no?
right
Yes
now
or
to
no?
the average person and present what you presented,
Hold on,
it's very loopy.
real quick.
It's not
You
loopy.
real
You're
quick, real
just
quick,
delusional.
real
You
quick.
can
Ben,
make it
Ben.
not loopy.
Hold on, Ben. Hold on. You fallen. Why were you barking like a dog in the comment section? You fallen. Why were you barking like a dog? You're not gonna talk now? You're not gonna talk? Now your mic doesn't work? That's what I thought. Barking like a little woman in the comment section. Oh, the Jews didn't kill Christ, but Paul said that word for word, genius.
Absolutely. And then also Paul said they're the enemies of all mankind.
Correct. But where you at, you fallen? Where you're at? Where are you? Like you talk a big game and then you disappear like a demon, bro. Don't come in here and click and pretend your connection doesn't work. Stop doing that, bro. You're gonna pretend your connection doesn't work? No. Don't write in the comment section. You're going to talk like a man. You poked your chest out, you're gonna talk like a man. You're gonna talk like a man. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds for you to talk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Like a little woman.
All right.
Like a little woman.
Now I just want to make one point here.
All right. Come on now. We understand Islam is in America because of George Washington, but you don't have to rub it in our faces.
Oh, I thought, Ben, you were joking and that was you playing it.
It's a Muslim guy. Muslim guy joined up here.
But tokenomics, you would agree that all those symbols that around the time of George Washington were clearly satanic symbols, Masonic symbols. Like he specifically on the dollar of the United States, right? The Great Seal. We have We showed in the picture that
No,
video.
I get it. Trust me. Look, Ben, I'm not trying to attack you about your position. What
But
I
so
mean
did
is,
you
if you
agree
were to
that
go
we're right?
out,
Is that
if
what
you're
you're
going to
saying?
go
You're
out
saying
to
we're
talk
right?
to like the average person, right? Like somebody who doesn't know about this, and then you spit all this zeitgeist kind of thing on them, they're not really going to absorb it as much as if you were to go, even if you go online, and as JP was saying, as the
Look,
reins, you know,
JP,
as the
you get it, right,
boundaries of
JP?
Christianity close around you, there's a lot less that you can say.
Listen, I'm gonna
And
say
if,
this. I
you know, so you
agree.
probably want to say the right things that
I
are more
feel like you're
scholarly.
saying we're right. You just
Yeah,
don't like
Ben,
the way we
I'll have to
presented it.
say I agree with at the very least 70%.
Yeah, like you understand it. That's
Now
my
there are
point. You
some things
understand
that
our
are
point.
there that I would have to research and do my homework. I'll be honest, but Tokenomics made a good point that there were a lot of Jews that helped start America, but that actually
But
doesn't
I'll
work.
tell you why,
Well, hold
JP.
on, Ben. That
You go
actually
ahead.
doesn't work. That goes against his case, I would assume.
Well, not just
Exactly.
Jews. I mean, there's just a lot of people financing anything. If one or
No,
two of them
no, no.
happen to be a Jew and one of them happened to be a buddy from the same club that the guy, Washington was in,
I
I
think
understand the
the
connection. I
problem
wouldn't really use
tokenomics.
that to jump to conclusions. But I would
I hear what
say
you're
that,
saying. It's just
when it starts building up
Tokenomics.
1, 2,
Let me
3,
say
4,
this. You're
yeah,
acting like Haim Solomon was just some guy. They credit him as the guy who saved the revolution. They had no money. They were running out of money. George Washington was running out of money. And that's why he made that famous saying, call for Haim Solomon. They were about to be destroyed by the British. And then this Jewish man came in clutch. And they call him the savior of the revolution.
When was
Multiple.
this? Was this before or after the Battle of Brooklyn?
It was the final battle that they won that solidified the the founding of the United States. That was when he came in clutch and financed them, and then they won. They said if
Ben, your connection's manifested, Ben.
no, yeah, I was just saying. So this guy's not just some
No,
minor.
I
There's
hear
a
you on what you're saying, but I'm telling you that, like, when you look at more concrete, secularly accepted evidence, it's already there,
So
and
okay,
you use these to build up your argument. It
okay, but
becomes
you're
more of
saying
a
you don't disagree.
paper,
Is that what you're
right?
saying? You don't disagree with
I'm
the
not
fact.
saying I don't disagree. What I'm saying is, if there's something there, you should. Well, I'm telling you, at the very least, there's definitely something there in the Library of Congress. You can go see that George Washington and George Washington Snyder are discussing the Illuminati. Unfortunately or unfortunately, this is something just has come up in studies, right? Uh, a lot of secular individuals know that. So if you were to go have a conversation with someone who is of any other demographic but has a historical background, and you're like, hey, did you know that George Washington actually knew about the Illuminati, and he definitely didn't do anything about it? Because that is on record in Washington. That's a talking point that you can start. It's valid. It's you can come up with a thesis paper on this and submit it. I know you and Chris might want to, if you want to get your name recognized, you can submit this as a paper, a peer-reviewed study, and use actual valid secular evidence to present your position. And if secular people start accepting that, then it's like, whoa, you are onto something huge.
Okay, but you
Right?
realize that if people see him with those symbols and he's on the Freemasonic checkerboard floor, they're putting the Great Seal with literally a Star of David that says in the letters, you can line up. We have the picture in the video that says Mason. We
No,
have
I know
the
about Freemasonry
all-seeing
practice.
eye,
Sure,
bro. The
I know about
all-seeing
Freemasonry,
eye.
but the thing is that Freemasons, and that's not necessarily a Star of David. It's a Magen David, but it's arguable about that. But the thing is that they
Come
were
on, man.
essentially LARPers of history, right? So even
Oh, you're
all the
saying
names,
that.
Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a city in the Levant, right? It's an area that's an ancient Levant. So they took the names, they LARPed names, and they pulled out symbols and names and numbers
Okay, but
throughout
that's
the
to me,
thousand.
bro. That's delusion. If these guys had all these symbols that were clearly satanic, you're saying they were just LARPing. Come on, bro. They founded arguably the greatest country that's around
No,
right now.
I'm not saying that they. Okay, so somebody can be LARPing but can certainly believe in antinomian principles,
I'm
right?
gonna believe him when he shows those symbols that are from ancient Egypt, satanic symbols like the all-seeing eye, the pyramid. I'm gonna believe him when he puts those on his things. I'm gonna believe him
Like,
say that that guy was with.
maybe you can say for 700 years Masons were LARPing, and that in the 17th century or 18th century there was an infiltration in the Bavarian Lodge by the Illuminati, and maybe by the 19th century this infiltration had become more widespread throughout the temples, and from there you can work up some sort of connection. But I wouldn't start it on Columbus, especially because Columbus and
We
Jewish
did. That
identity
wasn't
and
our point,
fluidity
bro.
is it's a totally different, that goes into like pseudo history.
Our point is that that was a Jewish project. So the Jews financed Columbus. Columbus was Jewish,
Which
and
Jews
then
financed Columbus?
we put three names that were Jewish people. The biggest financier was that man Santangel. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm not Spanish, but yeah, I showed you clearly from that book from Henry Ford where he showed. And you can even go on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
He
but
was Jewish.
I know, but it's like it's correlation, not causation, because you remember this is a time period where a lot of Jews had to work within
Well,
money
you know why it's crazy.
trade,
You know
right?
what's crazy, tokenomics? They were kicked out of Spain in 1492, right? The Jews. You know about that?
They
The
weren't really
Inquisition.
kicked. The
But
Inquisition is
hold on. You're saying the Inquisition, they did not expel the Jews.
it's a lot more complicated than that. It's
Okay,
you
okay,
can't
okay.
quite come and say that they simply expelled the
You
Jews. There
realize
were
that is
the
actually
dynamics of
literally
their
scholars admit they expelled the Jews in the Inquisition. I don't know a single person that doesn't believe the Catholics expelled the Jews from Spain. I've never heard that in my life.
Well, Ben, do you think that they killed 15, 30,000 people or so in the Inquisition?
I think it's very possible they killed a bunch. I didn't count
It's
them.
it's it's a lot of people think that it's tens of thousands and tens upon tens of thousands, but over like a course of a century or two,
Bro,
I think it was less than
hold on a
1,000, something
second. Are
like
you
that.
telling me?
It wasn't the numbers of people who were killed during the Inquisition is greatly exaggerated in public
Okay,
discourse,
but hold on a
right? So
second.
and
Hold
even
on a second.
you think it's a number
Let me
that's a
see
lot
what you're
different than
saying
what it
here.
actually is.
We have Jews being expelled. This is common knowledge in the Inquisition, 1492. They were expelled March 3rd. Columbus set sail the next day.
I'm
With
not talking about just the
multiple
Jews.
Jews on his boats. And guess what? Columbus
Christians were
hold on,
persecuted
hold on.
too.
Let me explain this. Columbus specifically said in his diary, I'm going to find a land so Jews can have religious freedom.
Okay.
Yes. There we go.
And
It's over.
so what?
That's our point.
In 1492, a Jewish man set sail for a golden city that
He
other
set
people
sail for
before him
America, and
did as
he's
well,
he is
and
the
he
man.
wanted it to be like a nice land that no one had that he can make for his people.
Yes, that's what he said.
And this is somehow connected to America?
Yes. Don't you get it?
How? That's that. My point is that there's no
But
connection.
that's our point, dude.
Ben, you haven't
Jews.
presented a connection other than there was a Jewish man in 1492 who believed in a myth that other people
No,
did, and
no.
he wanted to go
No,
find a piece of land for his
you're
people.
just making it sound where I'm telling you, the man who discovered America, Columbus, known as
He
discoverer.
didn't discover America.
I
Other
know you're
people were
going to
here
say
before
that
him.
the Vikings were there. I'm
Not
just saying,
just the Vikings.
hold on. The man in Europe
I
that
mean,
was
Leif
known.
Erikson came here, okay, yeah, but there were other people besides Leif Erikson that came to
Hold
the
on.
Americas.
The
You
man
know that
that is
some of the
dude, listen
American
to what I'm
Indians
saying.
actually have Greek.
The man who officially
Mm-hmm.
is known as discovering America. Everybody's told in school this is the guy who discovered America. Turns out to be Jewish.
So
Turns out to be
some white man told you that he's the
let me
first.
talk, dude.
Go for it. Sorry, man.
Let me talk.
Yeah,
Turns out to
sorry.
be Jewish, financed by Jews. He went there with the goal of finding a land for Jews to live in safety, right? They went there. A bunch of them went there. They went to Brazil, all over. And then our point is that they wanted that land for them. And then once the British started coming over, they started to take rights away from Jews. They started saying this is a Christian place. Only Christians can serve in our government. And then all of a sudden, there's this revolution, again financed by Jews. And then we have Jews specifically asking them to take away these Christian oaths for government. And here we go. That's our whole point. The whole time Jews were influencing America. That's our point.
I'm still failing to see how a guy going to Patagonia has anything to do with a bunch of people almost 150 years later coming as Christians for religious freedom. I mean, what someone coming to create the state of Virginia for Catholics.
No, hold on. Did we say that in our video? We said the whole stories, the whole story we've been told the whole time. Every element, there's a Jewish man behind the scenes. I'm not saying.
Yeah, but if Columbus had found a city in 1492 in North America,
yes,
and this is the first colony of the, let's say, you have 14 colonies, right? It's not 13, it's 14. New England and this Colombo. You could have a case, but there was nothing. He goes to South America, he comes back,
and you're missing something vital.
None of his people are there.
Tokenomics.
He doesn't try to come back again.
You're missing something vital. He wanted to rebuild Jerusalem, and I believe.
But he didn't.
But he
didn't build anything.
That was his goal.
He didn't build anything. He didn't.
But
he went for.
You see the connection? He had this agenda to rebuild Jerusalem.
Yeah, with all the gold that he found in Ophir.
And guess what? That agenda continued on into the United States. Guess what? Right now, we are protecting them in Israel. We literally bankroll their country. That's the connection. We have Christopher Columbus saying, I want to help rebuild Jerusalem. We have then the people who set up the United States wanting Jews to go back to Israel. This is written down that many people in America at the time believed that they were going to bring about Israel again. Then what happened? 1947, that truly took place. So yeah, it took a long time, but guess what? It happened. Now
it's people in 1492 in America believing that.
No, I just said to you, when the
unrelated
group
of
colonies were there. Did you watch our video?
No.
Did you watch our video, bro?
No, Ben. What I'm trying to say is an unrelated group of people about 200 or so years later.
Unrelated. They were all Jewish, bro. There weren't that many Jews. There's only 12 million Jews right now.
Wait, you're telling me that all the people who came to Plymouth Rock were Jews?
What?
All the people who landed at Plymouth Rock were Jews?
I didn't say that. I said the people.
We're talking about the people who came to America and established the first colonies. If they had any desire to do what you're telling me about, they would be. Then you can start there.
You didn't watch our video because we spoke positively about those people. We said they were brought into the Revolutionary War to shut that down.
If you can make a connection, let's say Columbus's son or his great grandson is one of these people who lands in America, and he's one of the first people who starts pushing towards this concept of rebuilding Jerusalem in the 17th century America. You would have a point, but there's just no connection. There's just no connection between Columbus and the first peoples of America.
The connection is the common Jewish heritage, the common ideology.
Okay.
That's our point. We never said.
So then, is there someone in the first voyages to America in the 17th century related to Columbus?
We never said he was physically descendant of these people. We said they have a common goal, a common agenda that was working back then. Which I point the whole time.
But it doesn't mean that they're the same person. I mean, if I have a common goal of hydrating myself, and you have a common goal of hydrating yourself, it doesn't mean we're both.
I'll be honest.
No,
Ben.
All right, fellas, look.
You know what? Let's JP take the reins of his show.
No. You guys can give closing thoughts. I'm gonna review the David Wood video, and then I'm gonna give some closing thoughts on both videos, and then pack it up because it's been 2 hours.
All right, I'll give that. Well, you can give it first if you want tokenomics.
Go ahead, tokenomics. Give a closing statement. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then Ben, I'll give you 2 minutes. All right, hold on. Give me a second, Tokenomics.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Hold on. All right, Tokenomics, you got 2 minutes.
Ben, all I'm saying is, if there's something there in the 17th century amongst these Freemasons and these people who came to America and founded the first colonies, and you can prove that, and you start your argument there in regards to the historical realm of information that we actually do have as far as the occult and what was going on in Europe, and you can, I get you, you'd have a strong case, but the idea of connecting it to Columbus with nothing other than the fact that they were just sharing similar goals that other people had before them and after them doesn't connect them to the single actual group that you can say there's a link, a direct lineage, a direct something. They might share it. It's correlation, it's not causation. And I just want you to arm yourself with better evidence because it exists out there. And if you have a point, you deserve to use good evidence for people to hear it.
You have another
That's all I
minute.
got. That's
You're not
all I
going to
got
use
to
your other
say.
minute?
No, that's all. That's it
Go
wasn't
ahead,
so
Ben.
much
You
a
have 2
fight.
minutes.
All right, Tokenomics just admitted they had a common goal, which was our point in the video. These people had a common goal to come in, use gold, the power of America to found Israel. Yes, it took a long time, but they were constantly working towards this agenda. I'm not saying that Columbus is like descendants of Columbus built America. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they had a common goal, just like our documentary states. And he also said that we're trying to say that the original colonies were founded by the people. We didn't say that. We actually said the opposite. We said that true Christians would come into America, they founded the colonies, and then the Jews did not like that because the Jews were not allowed to be in their government. They were not full citizens. And then these people with the same agenda decided to completely take over using the Revolutionary War, and then they were given their rights to be in our government now. And now through that power that they have in our government, they now completely dominate through Zionism. They used America to help them, and England too, I'll say, to get back their nation in 1947. That's our point. That's our whole point the whole time. I mean, I don't really understand you saying that.
We never connected Columbus to Masons, and
Right.
we never connected Columbus to Washington.
Right. That he misunderstood our point. We just said they had a common goal, and he just admitted that that's clearly true.
Why even talk about them?
Why even talk about it, bro?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, because guess what? This country literally finances them.
Why are Jews pestering around in our history?
No, I'm saying why talk about Columbus when you could have filled up that time with other things that were more damning and presentable about the
It
Freemasons of the
shows that they
17th
had
and
a
18th
common
century.
goal, bro. You just admitted they had a common goal, didn't you?
All right, that's
We
2
have,
minutes.
yeah. Anyway, JP,
Thank you, sir.
thank you so much for having us.
See ya, man.
God bless you, man.
All right, God
I
bless you.
gotta get out of here. I appreciate it.
All right, God bless Tokenomics. All right, I'm gonna watch this video right here. Man, I'm so dang tired. I might just wrap it up, and I'll do. Did you guys like this style of video? Nice change of pace. Drop a 1 if you kind of liked it. If you do, I'll do some of these more often, other than just having debates. Let me know. All right. What do you? Yeah. Let me know if you guys like this kind of style. If you guys do, we'll get on it. I'd do a poll, but I'm so exhausted. Have a nice day. I really tried to get. I I didn't think it was gonna take me almost 2 hours to get through. To get through that video, because the video was only 40 minutes, but I kept pausing and pausing and pausing. I kept pausing, but it was an interesting video. Maybe I'll do David Wood's video You know what? Let me push through. Let's push through. Let's push through. Let's push through. Let's push through so I don't have to do this in the future. So if we push through, we don't got to do this in the future. All right, let's go.
Not as a fake, and therefore less likely to deceive people. This is a fake US $100 bill. This is also a fake US $100 bill. Which one is worse? You might think that this fake bill is worse than this fake bill because this one's more obviously fake. But wouldn't being more obviously fake make it better, not worse? Doesn't the fact that it's easier to spot as a fake and therefore less likely to deceive people make it better, not worse? In other words, what's worse about this fake bill? It does a worse job at looking like an authentic bill. But this one isn't supposed to look like an authentic bill. It's supposed to look fake. The color's all wrong. It has play money and not legal tender on the front and back. The purpose of this bill is not to trick anyone. The purpose is to teach kids how money works and what the different denominations are, or just for kids to play with. It's not made to deceive. This fake bill was made to trick people. Its purpose is to deceive you. And the interesting thing about counterfeits is that the more authentic they look, the more deceptive they are. The more authentic this fake bill looks, the more people it will deceive. Here's a related thought. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant said, "The only thing that's good without qualification is a good will." The only thing that's good without qualification is a good will. What does this mean? Well, there are all kinds of things that we typically think of as good, but they're actually bad if they're attached to an evil will. So they're not good without qualification. For instance, we would normally think of intelligence as a good thing. But what if this intelligence belongs to a serial killer? An intelligent serial killer who can use his intelligence to conceal his crimes and get away with killing more victims is worse and more dangerous than a dumb killer who makes mistakes and gets caught. Here's a list of the IQs of various serial killers and murderers. Not completely reliable numbers. Nathan Leopold at the top had his IQ tested by the military. They used a weird test. Some of these are estimated, but the point remains. A lot of people who got away with serious crimes got away with those crimes because they were very intelligent. The world would have been a better place if these killers had been dumber. So intelligence is ordinarily good, but it's not good without qualification because it can be bad if it's used for evil. What about charisma, the ability to attract and influence people with charm and magnetism? Nick Fuentes has tons of charisma falling out of his pockets, and he's intelligent.
All right, fellas, your boy is out of gasoline, so just drop a like, and we'll be back at it sooner than later. God bless. I'll probably be back on debating tomorrow.